Welcome to another great story with your host, Nick Sandino. Brought to you by The Village Christian Church. Do you know any great stories? We sure do. And we can never find enough time on a Sunday morning to tell them all. Here at Another Great Story, we tell the truth about where life change, life growth, and life purpose meets our everyday life, with the hope that you might experience God in your story.
Welcome back to Another Great Story. I'm your host, Nick Sandino. Joining me today is our good friend, Allison, worship leader over at the Shorewood campus of the Village Christian Church. I really am excited for you to hear her story and all that God's done in her life. So sit back and relax and enjoy another great story. So, Allison, you ever been on a podcast?
No, never.
No? You are you a podcast listener?
I listen sometimes. It kind of depends on where I'm at in life. I feel like my brain doesn't always process things unless I'm sitting down and just listening to that.
You can't passive listen.
Yeah, it doesn't feel productive just to just sit down and listen to a podcast.
I know what you mean. I feel like I got to give it a lot of attention, and a lot of the people, I think Sarah Wyndham, who's your ministry champion, is like a podcast machine. Her and Mike Strunga, and they get content in every spare minute of their day. I'm way more, I have to focus on it.
Yeah. I can't go on a walk and just listen because my brain will not process what I'm listening to.
No, I'm too busy when I'm walking to be just breathe. Try not to try not to die.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh goodness. Well, I've been coming to the Village for about 5.5 years now. I came just after COVID because my husband and I had gotten engaged kind of during COVID, and we were looking for a new church home. And so we actually found out about the Village because of the person who married us, my old youth pastor, knew about Nate and the church.
Was that Nick Plasman?
Yeah, Nick Plasman.
Yep.
And he recommended the church because I was going to church out in Yorkville, and I wanted to go to a church that was going to be closer to my house.
Sure.
And we moved to Shorewood. So Yorkville was just a little bit too far for me.
Right.
And so we started coming a little bit before we got married, and everything kind of stumbled from there. I've been attending here. I was working at Starbucks at the time, and then just kind of as life happened, getting married and having children, I left Starbucks and then got even more connected at the church because I was here and wanted to be used, and that's how I kind of stumbled into getting to, worship lead in Shorewood.
So give us your history a little bit of just your story. When did you first start going to church? Were you raised at Community Christian, or what was your story?
Yeah, I actually attended Community Christian for my entire life. So in the end, it ended up being 33 years that I was at Community Christian.
No kidding.
Something like that. And started going when I was 3 years old. And that's when my parents discovered Community Christian, and was really raised watching my parents be in ministry. So I was always involved in, whether my mom was doing hospitality at the time, my dad was doing setup, I was always helping them do something. And I remember as a kid, not being so interested in being with other kids my age. I always wanted to be with adults. So I always did hospitality and stayed in service.
Yeah.
Or helped my dad and stayed in service. And it's so funny because I remember my parents in junior high, making me go to youth ministry because I didn't really cared to do it. I didn't care to go and be with other kids my age. So,
but you really enjoyed an adult worship service.
Yeah, I enjoyed an adult worship service. I mean, we were so influenced by my dad, who always played guitar with music. So the fact that we got to go in there and do music and get to listen to the bands play was more enjoyable for me.
Right.
And so I loved getting to do that. I think that the first time I was ever on stage was probably when I was 8 or something, and I got to do a Christmas service with my sister, and we sang a song together by ourselves on stage in front of all these people. And it's so funny, a random memory that I have of that. But I just enjoyed the adult services. I think that I just have always kind of liked being with people older than me.
Sure. So when you went to Community Christian as a 3-year-old, I can't even do the math on when that would have been year-wise. Was Community multi-site yet when that happened?
No, we were at the high school in Naperville, like Naperville North, I think.
So you were with them like in their early days when
yeah.
it was like Dave and John Ferguson.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening and doesn't know what we're talking about, because we're the Village Christian Church, community was a huge influence on us when we started here. So when we started in 2004, Nate was part of I can't remember what they would have called it, but he was part of a group that would meet at the Naperville campus with Dave and John Ferguson and Tim Sutherland and a few other guys. I think there were a lot of neat people there at the time, maybe like Dave Dummett and really interesting people in ministry, like great, successful people. I don't know if Troy McMahon was there then, but community was the kind of church that we were setting out to be in Naperville. And at the time, I don't even know what they had for campuses. They maybe had, well, you would probably know better than me. Do you know when they started and went multi-site and added a campus, or when they moved into the yellow box was what it was called?
I can't. Okay, so this is the funny thing. I learned something about you that I think I remember, that you were at the Romeoville location.
Yeah.
My family went to the Romeoville location.
That's interesting.
So we went there from the high school, or whenever they transitioned. So we were there for a long time. My mother was the hospitality director, I think, at the Romeoville location. Yeah, we were in that gymatorium there.
Yeah, it was Romeoville was really unique because it was like two buildings across the parking lot from each other.
Yeah.
Like a community center where we would do student ministry.
Yeah.
And a building that community owned. I don't know.
I just remember being in the gymatorium. I can't remember because I was young then. That was until I was junior high.
Yeah.
And I remember there being like a back staircase to get up to like the youth
center. I bet they moved. I bet I was at like their second location for Romeoville.
Maybe.
I couldn't even drive you there to this day, and I drove there, all summer.
Yeah, this was probably like 2000.
Right. So I interned at Community, 05.
Okay.
No, I was dating Lauren, 06.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it was 06. The summer of 2006, I interned.
Okay.
And we would office out of the Naperville campus, and then we would drive and do student ministry on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings and maybe Sunday nights. I can't remember, but it was a long drive from Verona, and I was there a lot.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of miles.
Oh boy.
That summer.
Yeah.
But I'm positive that we overlapped at some point. Were you in college, or where would you have been?
So after Romeoville, my family helped open the Montgomery location.
Okay.
So for those from around 2000 until 2006, really, because I graduated high school in 2006, was Montgomery. So we were there, and my mother became the hospitality person there. Maybe she wasn't one at Romeoville, and she just took over at Montgomery. I can't remember now, but
and Montgomery was like a building they inherited.
Yeah, it was a church that we inherited, and the people who were the head family that was there actually stayed with us while we were there as well. Wow. So that was kind of a cool experience because they knew the history of the church. And I was there 2006, and then after that I went away to college. So. And
Nick was your youth pastor.
Nick was my youth pastor. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I got there, Nick was in youth ministry at Montgomery.
Yeah. 2002, I think, was when he started 2001, 2002.
Yeah. And then Brad Prunty was at Romeoville. Sean Williams, who's now the community pastor or campus pastor at Willow Creek, was our director of student ministry.
Yep.
And we, do you remember Jake Kirshner?
Yeah.
So Jake was on that team, very part-time, in between jobs, kind of. And then there was
Norman was there later.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And he's still there.
Okay.
I believe.
BT.
Yeah, BT.
Okay. I didn't know him then. I knew him because of the Shorewood campus, because of our friends because of Leanna Weber, who worked there.
Okay.
And they were friends at that campus. And that's how I met BT a few times at a few different things. And we would borrow a baptistry from them. From that. Oh man, it's all blurry. You'd think all this would pop and come back, but when in that, Nick was a great guy. We had a lot of fun in that summer. He was a huge influence on me. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you knew this. Our original logo was designed by Nick.
Oh, really?
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was just a fresh out of high school kid. But he designed the arrows around our logo and gave us kind of the language, like helped craft some of that. About up arrow is life change, out arrow is life growth, down arrow is life purpose. And he was a big part of that.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he's always had like a really kind affection for our church, way more than like we deserved, but just good-hearted people that set us up with what leadership looked like. When in student ministry, did you start leading worship as a high school student?
No, well, I started, it was probably my freshman year of high school because I went to a Christian youth event. It was after that I decided that I wanted to start like doing ministry.
What Christian
on my
youth
own.
event would you have been at?
Carbondale,
yeah.
I believe.
In what year?
It was probably the 2001, 2002-ish time because I graduated in 06.
Yeah. I was at that same one.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
With Robin Seigers as the director.
I do not remember because that was a long time ago.
Sure.
There's an event that happened there that I really remember, but I don't remember anything else.
Yeah. we were always going to Carbondale. I think they only had 1 week at the time. They had a great food court.
Yeah.
Like that was really cool. You stayed on the campus. Mm-hmm. And it was before it was called CIY Move. It was just CIY.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like branched off into.
I think it was CIY Believe.
Oh, okay.
Was the like full name of it.
Okay. That would have been like their junior high program.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was like, it may have been the summer before I started freshman year.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah. Timeline.
I know. It gets really fuzzy. Yeah. And that's why it's kind of fun to do this because I think when people observe somebody in leadership like you're leading every week, there is that wonder of like, how do you get there? Like, how do you end up leading worship as a mom of two, as a wife? How does somebody qualify for that? You're one of like, I'd have to check the math on this. Carter would know. Abby might know. You're one of only like 5 Bible college degrees.
Oh yeah.
In like our whole staff of like 30 people.
Oh yeah.
Because Nate, Mike, Carter, Abby, yourself. It was really like you had more ministry prep than most people have when they come to us.
Oh, yeah. I've been through a lot.
Yeah, you did all the things.
Coming up to this, yeah. I think that God did some pretty incredible things of like creating a foundation for me before I knew that I needed the foundation being built. And that was really cool to see looking back.
Do you always remember just having a pretty solid relationship with the Lord, or do you remember it clicking? Was that at CIY?
It was at CIY was where my like first impact of like, oh, this is a real thing. Like this is not just a lifestyle where you go to church and you help out and then you go home. And it was at CIY Believe that I had my like first encounter of like the reality that like God was going to step in front of me and protect me when I was feeling like attacked, when I was feeling like the path to God was not the correct path. And it was just this really weird experience of being in the room with hundreds of kids. Right. And I was actually in like a front row seat, and the music almost like hurt my ears. I was like, what is happening? I felt so like foggy and disoriented. And I just was like, I remember seeking out like, at the time, I don't even think that I was like seeking out God. I think I just was like, what is happening? Like kind of talking to myself. Yeah. And I actually had to step away because I felt so overwhelmed by what was happening to me. Oh. And I had to go and like be by myself. And I remember being in this like kind of dark area of the room, because this room was technically like a classroom, but it was like a big auditorium classroom. So I was like back behind like a wall where like the door was to exit. And I just remember having this overwhelming feeling of like, what if God's not real? Oh. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is the point of what you're doing if God's not real? And it was just very overwhelming to me. And at the time, like I said, it was a lifestyle. To me, it was just the truth. It was just the truth that like God was real, and that just was the way that it was. It was black and white to me. And so I left, so I was waiting there, and service ended, and I was standing right by the exit. So I knew everybody was coming, and I was like, I was crying, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I do not want people to see me.
Right.
Because they're going to be like, what's wrong? And I was going to be like, I don't want to tell you what's wrong because I feel crazy right now.
Yeah.
And so at the time it was at night, it was an evening service. It was storming outside. An interesting thing about me is that I went through a good chunk of my life being like terrified of tornadoes. Like, thank you, parents, for letting me go see Twister.
Yep. It like shaped every one of us.
Yeah, in the cinema when I was little. My parents had to take me out when they were in the bunker at the beginning, the family.
Yep.
That whole experience of it coming and then taking terrified.
Brittany's the same way, my sister.
Yeah, horrible. And I just now am like, okay, like I can get through things, right? And, but at the time, like it's lightning, it's storming out, it's not raining yet. And I am just like completely overwhelmed. And I leave with the crowd. We all go out, we're standing with our youth group, we find everybody. And I'm just overwhelmed. And all I can think is like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't want to tell anyone because they're going to think I'm weird and they're going to think that I'm like going crazy a little bit, right? But then all of a sudden I get this pull, this almost like a voice in my head, but this pull to like, you have to tell somebody. I know you don't want to tell somebody, but you have to tell somebody. So I started like trying to tell someone what was going on, but they were like so distracted because everybody was gathering and trying to tell someone. And then all of a sudden it was just like calm. Like once I decided to actually speak it out and tell someone what was going on, it became calm. And that person just like, it was like they didn't even matter. I just needed to actually say it because I don't remember someone actually.
Do you remember what you were saying? Just that you were processing or?
I think I was trying to tell them like, something is wrong. Like I feel like something's wrong in my head and I cannot figure out like what's going on. I feel so overwhelmed. Like I don't think I told people because at the time I don't think I would have thought that it was like Satan attacking me or anything like that, you know? And so I don't think I even had the words to say anything. But I remember once I stepped out to saying something, I remember talking to Nick, but I don't remember. Nick's the type of person that would have been like, what's going on? How can I help
would have
you?
engaged.
Would have engaged in it. I don't remember that at all. I just remember us like having that moment, I tell them what's going on, and then having like silence finally happening in my head and kind of like having this feeling of like someone just like stepped in who's bigger than whatever's happening inside my head.
How do you reconcile that now with what you know?
I truly like feel like to me, after that point I was baptized, right? But I really feel like that was the night that I like became baptized in the Spirit and with the Lord because I like recognize now that was like Jesus who was like, hey, like, no, you're mine. Like, stop. Because literally we started walking back across the campus. Carbondale's like you walking clear across the campus, right? And it's storming. So I'm already like.
You probably stayed in the towers.
Yeah.
And you had to walk across that giant bridge over that highway.
Yep. All the way across. And we're walking together and I'm like panicking, all this stuff. And I'm like, Lord, if this is you, like I distinctly remember saying, if this is you, you need to like tell me that this is truthfully you, right? Not even joking. As soon as I asked that, I'm going to keep hitting this microphone.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. I talk with my hands. As soon as I asked that question, torrential downpour. Like we were probably 500 feet from the door. No joke. I started hysterically laughing. Could not stop laughing. People were like, what's wrong with you? What's happening? And it just was like, I literally consider that like my baptism because it was just like I was just completely washed clean and just released from everything. Weirdest thing. That's
the that bridge is where I told Rochelle I was going into ministry.
Oh yeah.
Like same like long walk process. We were in the Shryock Auditorium. And I just remember that was like a long walk as a 15-year-old would have been like 2000, right around there. And it's incredible on a campus like Carbondale, like how many things God did in students, like how many people I know personally that came to Christ there, went public with their faith there, committed to ministry there, just really powerful things that God was doing on that campus that we would rent for a week. You know, it's incredible. So from there, you're what? Probably like 14 at the time, or
yeah,
give or take.
Since we've been talking, I realized it's a summer before freshman year.
Yes, so maybe 13.
Yeah, that summer, and then so then I would have started high school in that fall.
So from there, when does what's your relationship change like with the Lord? You've touched on that, but what happens with the church? What happens with your youth ministry?
So from that point on, I just knew that I wanted to be in ministry. Like I had to help other people experience what I did, like what I experienced with the Lord. Like I wanted to be able to share. And
did you think that was pretty young, or could you acknowledge how young you were then, or not until later?
Now that I look back, I feel like I was really young for something like that to have happened to me. But like at the time, I just felt like it was so normalized to me. Like it just was like, hey, you're supposed to go this direction. And that's just it. It was black and white. And I think I was always kind of like black and white when I was a kid. Like it just was because I'm a rule follower. So like to me, it's either yes or no. Like you don't, like if this is a rule, you just follow it.
Right.
And so like to me, it just was, which is so funny because my faith when I was really little, right? Black and white, it was God was real, period.
Yeah.
That was it. And that was just probably further confirmation that he seriously was actually real. And it wasn't just a lifestyle. It was, he is going to step in front of like the battlefield for you and he's going to be there. And that was such a fantastic way for me to like be kick-started into like wanting to do ministry for me and not just like help my parents.
Right.
Right. So like I talked to Nick and he got me involved in youth ministry then now because I could help out with junior high because I had entered high school. And so I just got to do the like lead a small group and help on stage, like do announcements or lead a game, things like that.
Yeah.
And eventually I joined the worship team, but it was just like my sister was always kind of like the person who either led a song or...
Is she older than you, younger than you?
She's older than me. She's 18 months older. So we were fairly close as kids. So obviously very inspirational in like getting involved with like singing. And so I always kind of did it with her. My dad played guitar at the time.
Right.
So just a very natural ministry for me to just join and be involved in. I never led anything, just was in it. So at some point, I think it probably would have been like junior, probably senior year. So I was very active in the youth ministry at that point too, right? I was just one of the key members, if you will, like in the youth ministry and leading. And Nick, like if you know Nick, he just feeds and feeds and feeds into people that he sees like giftings in. Yep. And he's probably one of the most important people that made me into like the leader that I am today. Sure. Because he just wants to see you grow.
That was one of the things Brian Zaire, who had worked on and off with Community Christian or worked for them, and then did consulting and community. They were the ones who kind of paved the way for us to give it away. Like this, if you want this to go, if you really want to trust God to grow the church and equip the church, you've got to give it to everyone in the church to do. And I think there's an old mindset of hire what you need from the outside to serve what's in the community. Yeah. And Community Christian kind of paved the way for us to understand that when you saw somebody with potential, give them a responsibility, give them a relationship that they're in charge of, that they're responsible for. And it, like, there's a lot of adults having the same experience you and I were having at 14, where they're going, this is overwhelming. This is something God's doing. I have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. Where do I start? Yeah. You know?
Yeah, he was that person for me to just help me, right? He used to even say, I think, that, like, children were the future of the church, like something like that. Like, they are the future of, like, what's going to happen in the future with the church, right? Yeah. And so he just, like, took me under his wing, and it just became, like, this is just, I want to do this all the time, right? Yeah. I did for a little bit want to go into, like, aeronautical engineering, which is a really weird kind of, like, side thing. I was not smart enough to do it, let's be honest. Like, I really could not. I did some accelerated math classes, but, like, not enough to, like, be an engineer.
I was in accelerated math when I felt called to ministry, and I dropped it. Yeah. I dropped it, like, that week. Really? It was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
Don't need to put effort into that.
I'm not going to need this in the youth ministry field.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is that I did go to Christian University, right?
Right.
And the only math class I took there was math for life.
Oh, that's like a practical application math?
And that's it. There was
That's
no
probably
other,
wonderful.
no other math. Yeah, and it was great. I always enjoyed math and science, so to me, I missed a little bit of some of that stuff.
Sure.
But I never, like, looking back, like, it was just ridiculous for me to even think about going into what I was, aeronautical engineering.
Well,
like, it just is. I just really enjoyed space stuff.
Sure.
It was just something I really liked. But at some point, I just was like, no, I just feel like I should go. Like, I went and visited a couple different colleges, went down to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, I think, down in, like, Daytona. And, it was not the path that God had for me.
You could pretty quickly tell.
Yeah. And so I decided to go into ministry. And of course, like, I looked at a couple different colleges, but where did John Ferguson go? Where did Dave Ferguson go?
Right.
Where did Nick go? So I went to Lincoln. So
that's really interesting. I think it's a weird thing when you feel, so I think everyone's equipped to do something. And I think when you read Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 12, when you see equipping the church, I mean, when we meet anyone who comes to know Christ, like, you have a purpose in the kingdom, you're part of the body of Christ, no part of the body is more valuable than the other. That said, like, when Paul keeps teaching in 1 Corinthians 12, this is why it's really fun to talk to you, because whenever I say these things, like, you've always had such a brilliant understanding of Scripture, from your morning devotionals to your staff devotional. Like, you really understand God's word really well. Like, you see it so well on things that I go, oh, I love that she picked that out of it. So when Paul says in 1 Corinthians 12 that, like, you know, the hand isn't greater than the foot or whatever, you know, and he makes all these comparisons. But then he says there are, like, some greater responsibilities. When you're called to ministry, and I don't use that word, like, flippantly. I think some people use the word calling for everything. Like, I felt called to, maybe I'm overstepping, I don't want to, like, hurt feelings, but I felt called to, go to Walmart today, or I felt called to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, sure, but I'm talking like a responsibility that you would be disobedient to walk away from. Yeah. Like, that all of a sudden when you look at other passions, like, I really wanted to go into ag. I really wanted to go into sales. I really wanted to do something that served farming communities, that had a company truck. And then all of a sudden that still looked like something I would love and completely never do. Mm-hmm. And it's a weird shift when you feel called to ministry, like the responsibility you feel to the Lord, you know, and I think that's a hard thing to talk and explain to other people.
Yeah. I think that, because when I had a conversation with my family or friends about that I was going to go to school for ministry, they were kind of like, is that a real thing?
Yeah.
You know, like, can you actually get a degree?
Can you make a living?
And yeah, can you get a living? My grandfather definitely did not approve of me going into ministry.
Really?
Because it just was like, how are you going to, like, survive in life? Like, what is this? Right. And especially when I did some missions work, and I was wanting to be like a missionary. And that definitely was like, what? Like, right. How are you gonna live your life? Yeah. Like, where are you gonna get money from? Where are you gonna do all these things? And it was so interesting to tell people that, like, to me, it wasn't about having a job. It wasn't what it is.
Right.
It's just about, like, I have this, like, feeling that I just need to share the goodness that I feel from the Lord. And this, first off, just makes sense, but also it just felt like that was the way that I could get closer to the Lord.
This makes me think of that verse in Jeremiah, and I'm going to mess up where it's at, but have you heard this? Like, where Jeremiah said, if I say I won't speak of him or speak anymore in his name, his word is like a fire shut up in my bones, and I'm weary of keeping it in. And it was the only word I could use to describe what I was feeling was weariness.
Oh, yeah, like, if you didn't share.
Yeah, weary if I didn't do this. Like, like, whenever ministry's been hard, or whenever there's been a hard season, or if there's been, like, an opportunity come along and you're like, oh, that would be something different, which is few and far between over 20 years. But in that moment, it's like, to go do that other thing was like a weariness. Like, like, that would be disobedient. It would be directly, not saying it would be sin, it would be going the other direction on a direction the Lord's clearly told you to go.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like there's almost like a physical pull that when you're not supposed to be doing something, it almost is like this weight that is literally like pulling on you, and it's not until you release it to the Lord that you feel that release come off. And it's almost like a person has you like bound with a rope and they're pulling you, and you feel this like physicalness, almost like your body's pulsing, like you feel this pull. But then once you release it to the Lord, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm like light as a feather because I've released whatever it was. Like obviously I was supposed to be releasing this, and I had been trying so hard fighting against
to controlling
something.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't always realize that you were fighting so hard to keep something until you've released it. You know, you get so used to carrying a weight on yourself. Once you release it, you're like, why do I feel different?
Was there ever a point, so you go off to Lincoln, you do 4 years at Lincoln?
I did 5.
Did 5 years at Lincoln?
Yeah, bachelor's 5 years.
With a degree in?
So I did intercultural studies, which is missions work.
Yep.
But then I had all of this stuff. Okay, so I did multiple degrees, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So I went to Lincoln, was like, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm here now, Lord, but I don't know what really I'm supposed to be doing. I had done youth ministry because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then didn't feel like that was right. So I actually stepped away for like a semester and a half, like a summer and a semester, and went to Waubonsie Community College.
Oh, really?
And did some like secular creative stuff.
Yep.
And then was like, no, I need to be at Lincoln. So I went back, and I remember thinking that, here's a cool thing I'd forgotten about, is that I remember like praying to God about whether or not I was supposed to go back. And I was like, but I need you to help pay for it. Because I'm like, this obviously is, I'm going to have loans or whatever to, make this happen. I ended up getting a grant that covered like half of my tuition for me to be able to go. So like, it just kind of like worked out, right? God just kind of like provided for me to go back. It just, once that I received that, I was like, okay, let's go back. And I went back and I did intercultural studies, but I wanted to keep everything that I had taken classes for. So I did intercultural studies with a focus in youth ministry and creative arts. So that was my like full degree.
Man.
I wanted to be everything.
You did everything they had to offer.
I did everything but music, I think, there.
So then coming out of college, what was the hope? What did you come do after that?
So,
because you came out of college in what year?
11.
Okay. So then, there's 10 years before we meet you.
Yeah, a lot happened. So I came out, I'd been doing missions work, right? I'd been spending some time in England for a couple years. I went and lived there for 4 months, did my internship there.
I didn't know any of this.
Oh yeah. So my goal was to go back there, but really the door never reopened for me. I did youth ministry out in England with David and Teresa Fitro with CMF Ministries, I think, and loved that. I literally felt at home in England. It was my slowness. It just was the people there I loved. It just, I wanted to be there and wanted to go back.
Really?
So because that was my direction, I was like, okay, well, I need to get a job, go to church, and figure out like what the path is to be able to go back, because I couldn't just go straight back, right? I had to kind of like prepare and everything. That door never really opened for me again. And so I started at Starbucks when I got back, and then I got involved at my church, but I didn't want to go to the same location my parents were at. I wanted my own location.
Yep. So
I went to the Yorkville location at that point. And I don't remember who the pastor was at the time. I cannot remember. Aaron Kohler was there for a big chunk of the time that I was there, but I can't remember. There was a guy named Nate who was there at the end, but someone else was there at the beginning, and I can't remember.
Yorkville had a little bit of turnover through there.
Yorkville had a lot of bit of turnover for the entire time I was there, but yes, it was.
And God's still like doing some neat stuff there.
Yeah, it's that the history of Yorkville is pretty like. You're constantly turning pages. Like there was a lot of work that God was doing there and bringing people in and taking people away and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I got to be there throughout so much of that transition.
And it didn't hurt. You were able to be pretty.
Well, because I was always kind of the helper. I was always just kind of someone who was just available and was able to help and just was trying to learn as much as I could. And because I went there, I got involved in the youth ministry right away. And at one point, like I was running the like Sunday morning youth group because we didn't have someone who could be there on Sunday mornings. And then that was BT Norman had come in at one point, but he was also helping out the Yellow Box still, or maybe another location. So there was a lot of opportunity where like I got to just step up and say, I'll help, because there was so much turnover happening, which gave me a lot of experience.
Yes.
And I joined the worship team eventually, and through college, I had kind of discovered my singing voice. I had like learned piano a little bit and like blossomed in a way that I was not able to do before college, right?
Wow.
So I joined the worship team. That's when I got to start leading. And
there is like an actual, like you can be grown and your voice hasn't caught up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It did not catch up to me until I was probably like 20.
Yeah.
Or something.
I remember Sarah saying that because she had a beautiful singing voice forever, but that all the pieces didn't come together until she was really an adult. Like that she felt like all of what she's trained, learned, like fills out, and all of a sudden you're like, I have a voice that can lead this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is an exercise. It's not just like a American Idol where you go up and belt and.
Yeah. No, it's your voice has to develop and it has to grow, and like it matures, you know, even your singing voice changes. My voice is so much different now than it was then. But like it gave me the confidence to actually like join the team and it be like my ministry. Like it was no longer my sister kind of being, you know, the lead and everything. Now I got the chance to like just be vulnerable and just sing and just share. Yeah. So like that was where I first learned to like lead worship. And throughout everything with that, came to a point where we didn't have a worship like pastor at a time. So like I got to do even more leading, and I got to do like planning and helping, which was really amazing. I got to do kind of like an interim thing for them so that they actually had someone consistently there.
So nothing the Village has thrown at you is out of the ordinary to you. Like you've already seen this. Yeah,
I mean, I've gotten a taste of all of it just because of the way that Yorkville was. Doors were constantly opening for me to be able to learn new things. And then like the fact that I went to college and got to do missions work and youth ministry work, and like I did some like tech stuff, like it just all these things just kind of like compiled together. Right. And like I said, like I feel like he created this foundation for me that I didn't know was going to lead to who I am today.
We have I don't have any experience with other churches. I had like a short internship with Community. I grew up at First Christian, and then I've been here for, 21 years. And I don't have the other experience of how other churches are. There is a weird, like jack of all trades that happens in ministry that God seems to like fill gaps with. And when somebody like yourself or that sees that also understands like right seat on the bus kind of mentality, it's way more yielding. It's always like, I can do this for now until we get like a long-term or a better fit. That's a really unique, humble heart. Have you always just been okay with that?
I mean, I think that I've always just wanted to be helpful. Like, I think that because my parents were in ministry, they were always like, how can I help? You know, my dad is very generous with his time. So I think it was just the way that I was raised. And I always just had the desire to continually growing myself. And when you get to step into opportunities, you usually always get to grow no matter what the opportunity is, right? So I think that I always got excited about being helpful.
So you're at Starbucks, where at?
I was at like multiple Starbucks throughout my whole career, but I started in Oswego, and then I went to Yorkville, and then I went down for my master's down in Lincoln, so I went to a Bloomington Starbucks, and then came back up and was in an Aurora Starbucks, and then I ended up doing like assistant manager stuff out in Bolingbrook, and then I became a manager out in Lockport. So it was
You've been at all of them, man.
Yeah, I've been at a lot in like a kind of a tight area besides, down in Bloomington.
Right.
Yeah.
So then all that while, what made the switch? So catch me up. You meet Clint and...
I met Clint a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you not know this about my husband, that I met him when I was in 5th grade?
Wow.
So I was born in Naperville, lived in Naperville, and my family moved out to unincorporated Yorkville, but we went to Oswego high schools. And I met my husband there in like 5th grade, whatever. And he had just moved there a year prior from Streator, Illinois. So it kind of just, things worked out. Yeah. He and I like just kind of became friends. And
that's a dramatic move when you go from Streator to Oswego.
Oh yeah. Big move for him. It was his, I think it was a love-hate relationship with some of his siblings of like missing the country, but then also really like having like all the things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, of course, Oswego didn't have all the things back then. So
right. That's true.
Yeah.
So then you guys meet then. What rekindles in that 10-year gap before we meet you?
So, we were friends the whole time, but, on and off, we would kind of like, I would always go away, right? I would go away to England, or I would, go away to school, things like that. At one point I was doing missions work in Ireland. So like I was going away to Ireland for like 2 weeks at a time and everything. So like trying to nail me down was a little bit hard with like even just hanging out was difficult to nail me down.
Right.
And so I had had like a tough relationship that I went through at the very tail end of my like missions career. And I just had this moment of like, I just need to reach out to some good guys in my life so that I can like feel like there's some good men in the world, but like that I just need some guys to be like, no, like you're great, you're awesome. Like he's the one who had the issues. Yeah. And so he was one of the guys I reached out to because he just was always so kind and he always was so genuine when he would listen. And like our paths were not always on the same line. Like he was involved with things that I wasn't involved in, and I was always disappearing wherever I was going. But whenever we would come together, he was always very purposeful about sitting down with me and like hearing about like what was going on in my life. And so I reached out to him, and he just was like, it's so funny. He was in the movie theater for Endgame, or Endgame, the movie Marvel Endgame.
Yeah, right? One of the Avengers.
Yes, one of the Avengers. And so he was like, "Do you need me? Do you need me to leave? Like I'm in this." And he had waited weeks to go see this because he just was waiting to go see it with people, and then didn't get to, went by himself. And he tells me today, he goes, "I'm so thankful you didn't tell me to leave," because he's like, I really wanted to see that movie. And but we started hanging out from there. And there was actually one night I even told him, because he had feelings for me for a very long time. And I had told him, I was like, I really don't see myself getting there. I don't, like, emotionally and whatnot. And then once I had that conversation with him, he kind of let his walls down and kind of just was my friend and no longer like trying to pursue me. And then I was like, hey, you're kind of great. I went with him to his cousin's wedding. He needed someone to go with him, so he wasn't there by himself. And I fell in love with his family. Like I even tell him, I was like, the reason I'm with you is because I fell in love with your family. And I was like...
It makes all the difference when you love each other's families.
Absolutely. I even messaged a friend while I was at the wedding, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I already told Clint I didn't like him, but I love his family so much. I'm like, what am I going to do about this? And it just, then I let down my walls, and everything kind of like happened from there. And it just took... He always jokes that it took 20 years for us to finally get together, so...
What a great story, though.
Yeah.
Now, 5 years into marriage...
About close to 5 years.
Close to 5 years and 2 boys into it.
2 boys.
What's your boys' names?
Colton and Carter.
Colton and Carter.
Yeah, one will be 1 next month, and in a couple days, and the other one will be 3 in a couple days. Well, in a month.
Those boys are so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, busy, all boy.
Yeah.
The video call on Monday when you joined our staff meeting was the highlight of the meeting. Like, we just love that when your kids are around, and I don't want anyone to wait for life to slow down for them to do the thing God's created them to do.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, like, it's never going to come.
Yeah.
And your experience, my experience was I was drug around by my parents to all these ministry opportunities, and it was like the best life. And so, like your kids are seeing it because they're raised in it. Yeah. They're drug around to it. It's not out of the ordinary.
No,
and it's such a healthy thing. When you came to the Village, I remember pretty early in your meeting you pretty early. Had we started Seneca yet when you came?
It was literally like the month I started there.
That it was opening?
That it was like their very first Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I came right at that transition.
I think heaven will tell us the story of how interwebbed all these things are. But I know Kaylee and I overlapped in high school. She was a Morse girl. I was in Seneca. She was friends with my wife. We never had a conversation. I can account for at least a half dozen times we were in the same place.
Yeah.
I know what community I was around your family or you at some point. Nick was a big influence in my life. And you just wonder, like, there's moments when God sends people that ready you for what's next, and you don't even know, like, who's there or what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I just think story after story on that, where somebody came. Charlie is that way. Like, the community pastor at Shorewood, who you work for now.
Yeah.
I don't think we knew that. Like, I think we just were looking at a, couple, like Charlie and Bev. We'd love to have you at our church, Yeah. You just don't know what God's like knitting together. How long were you here before you and Clint felt like this could be our church home? We could make the switch here.
Yeah. So we watched a little bit online first, just a couple Sundays online. And the transition happened really easily because our church community had not reopened yet, where you guys reopened. So it made it really easy to kind of like leave a church I was at for 30 plus years and just transition to here. And I think it was actually an online one that really kind of like triggered it for my husband. And it was something, a financial one and message. I don't remember at the time what it was, but he appreciated the way that the church talked about money and talked about how they how we handle at the Village, how they handle money. And I was like, okay. I was like, great. I was like, because he was not consistent in attending church for most of his adult life. So it's the fact that like he was like, okay, like this is interesting. Like, so for me, I just walked in and it was just, let's just do it.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm always like hesitant. We start a financial series this week and I'm always like, I wonder if people actually get excited about this. And every time I'm blown away because there's always a story where somebody's like, I didn't know that we were good stewards. I didn't know that like how God blessed us. I didn't know the church's heart behind their finances. And Nate's an open book. Like he's just like, here's the numbers. Here's what like we feel responsible for. What do you guys think? And like that vulnerability, I'm always blown away at the stories like Clint, like that people are wired and maybe even have a history of not being able to trust organizations with stuff like that. Yeah. So when that itch is scratched, it feels like, okay, this is somewhere I could trust. And how long were you here before you felt that same call to help? Like, I just want to be a helper.
So when I first came, I definitely purposely kept myself back a little bit because I came from a church where I was very involved, right? Very much someone where I was like, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And I was like, it's probably smart for me to like put myself in a learner seat and just sit back and just wait to see what God wants to do for me, how he wants to use me. Because also my master's degree is in preaching. So I was doing preaching at Community too. So like for me, I wanted to walk in and I was like, I really don't want people to know what I do yet because I can't be doing all of these things like walking into a church day one, right? I need God to be like, go put everything in on this ministry. Yeah. Because when you get spread out like that, it's like, it's not enjoyable anymore because you're just being helpful is It's awesome. It's a great trait. I really love the fact that God created me the way that I am. But when he allows you to just go all in one particular ministry, there's almost more blossoming that can happen because you are just fully invested. So for me, I just waited, and eventually Sarah and I connected more, because funny thing, you and I probably definitely crossed paths, right? Well, Sarah and I crossed paths when I was in high school, right? She was the,
I forgot
she
about
interned
this.
with my like choir director. So I was
I
in show
forgot all
choir.
about
She was
that.
So like it just was, things just made sense. Oh, and her husband, Luke's parents were my professors in college. So like it just, everything just came together and made so much sense. And when she found out about that, she was just like, I need to know more about you. Like, what is this? And I shared a little bit about my like singing history with community. And so she got me involved, but it probably wasn't like till a year.
Yeah.
I probably was here for about a year. I just was waiting. I didn't want to, I had come from a season where I was like, I need to go and do this, which was seeking out ministry for missions again.
Yeah.
I need to do this because it just makes sense. I was like, I went to school for it. Like, of course, God's going to be glad that I'm doing this. You know, like it wasn't something.
It's always tricky when we tell God like what makes sense to him.
Yeah. It's like what you talked about earlier, having a calling. Just because something's a good idea and it makes sense on paper does not mean that it's your calling.
Right.
And so I was like, there was like 2 years, probably 2.5 years of me pushing and trying to do missions work again.
Right.
And I got to go on some trips. I was able to raise funds, everything. But like in the end, I talked about earlier about that pull of like when you know you shouldn't be doing something and you finally release it, like that's when everything just kind of cleared. So I came here and I'm like, I'm not going to push. I'm just going to sit back.
And you found like a lot of health in that.
Yeah.
Good for you. So, and then a year goes by and a couple more years and then we hire you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Were you content at that point? You're married to Clint, and you're going to be a mom. Were you content at that point being a volunteer role in ministry for the long haul?
I had loved the idea of being like a paid worship leader somewhere. Cause I had done some work at community and, loved the idea, but it just didn't, at the time, it just didn't seem like that was something that God kind of had on my plate. And I just had to kind of be okay with that. At community, I was probably more focused on speaking than I was like doing that leading part too. So I was kind of like seeking out opportunities to speak. And, so when I came here, I just wanted to be available because when I had my son, I remember that feeling of like talking about a call in your life of like, I had my son and it was like a light bulb in my head clicked of like, I created you to do this with my son, like to be a mom. So like I was living in that life of like, that was my ministry, if you will, like being a mom. And, which can be a really hard thing to switch out of when you then have opportunities open and you're like, hey, you have to figure out how to do this other stuff and have a 1-year-old with you. Yeah. And God helps you figure that out. But at the time I wasn't looking for it. Like it was fully God and Sarah figuring out stuff with like moving me into that kind of position. But then once Shorewood became an opportunity, like I wasn't here when they announced Shorewood. Right. I didn't get to know about it ahead of time. I was watching online at the time and I watched it and I just started crying immediately when I heard that they were coming out to Shorewood. I texted Sarah like within like seconds of me hearing that of like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that. Right. And I think that for a moment, maybe it popped in my head of like, oh, maybe I could like go and, help with worship there. But that I was just like, oh my gosh, they're coming to me. Like the village who we've loved is literally
How far do you live
to
from
me.
that campus?
6 minutes.
Oh goodness.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's next to my grocery store. Like it just is great. And, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. Like this is literally something that had been on my heart for years that I had put on the back burner because I just didn't see it, as being, I didn't know how to pursue it because I wasn't going to force anything. So, it was all God's hand.
I think that's the story of a lot of us. Like, I know something's on my heart. I have no idea how to pursue it. And then waiting on God to open the door for it is a maturity that takes some time. But, man, I'm so glad it was you. Like, I'm so glad that the pieces fell in place. I remember when we announced Shorewood, And that was the third campus, Seneca, then Coal City, then Shorewood. And so you almost wonder if people are going to be like, okay, and I heard when we announced it, I can't remember what section it was, but I heard like a group of people go like and gasp and turn and look at each other because they had the same feeling as you.
Yeah,
They're like, we're driving from there.
Yeah.
And to see, we've joked about like what's next or what do we do, or we're in like a holding pattern. We're very much paused other than, Sheridan, which is a completely different animal. But it's like, we want a church to be in your community, which is where it was for you, which is where it was for Charlie and Bev, which is where it was when those, when those folks gasped in service. They're like, it's coming to our backyard. Like God's doing something that's just different. So you've been our worship leader. Then your second son is on the way. Like when we're trying to open.
Yeah.
And Charlie's like, our launch date is like when Allison has a baby.
Yeah, it was like a week prior or something like that.
It's like, so we've got our worship person.
Yeah.
A few months postpartum, like just like in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
And it was, there's so many interesting things that took place. Sarah was able to launch that. How's it going there? Give us like the 30,000 foot overview. What's it like in Shorewood? How is it for you and Clint and your boys? How is it for your mom and dad that are there?
Yeah. It is such a welcoming environment, and a lot of times it feels on Sunday that we have been there for years, and not that it hasn't even been a year, right? Because the way that the people who attend are just so welcoming, and they just sit around for almost an hour at times, and they just stay. And it's just kind of joking that, like, what are we going to do when we do a second service?
Yeah.
Because people can't stay for an hour in our room because our community tables are in our worship room.
Right.
And so it's just incredible to see the amount of people that are coming for the first time who like have not been attending church or anything, but then come in and they start volunteering like 3 weeks later. Like it just feels so normalized, and even getting to, like, from a perspective of getting to sing on stage, looking at the congregation. Yeah. I mean, first off, we had this amazing group of high school students that
out of nowhere.
Yeah. And they all sit together, and getting to lead worship with the excitement that they have every single week. Like, if I need people to clap, they're going to be clapping for me. Right. And, or just people to be smiling back at me. Like these high schoolers, and it's primarily girls.
Yes.
Like, it's this huge group of girls. One of them is even my tech person. Her name's Kendall, and they are just the kindest girls ever. Yeah. Like, there's no fear walking up to the table, getting to talk to them, right? It's so cool to see that, like, we're so new, but that has already, like, been started and developed for us. And then getting to see people, like, raise their hands for the first time, or the quietness in the room that we get during like those songs where it just is, they're just singing hallelujah. I can't even, my tongue twister. It's like how quiet it is, but at the same time you hear their voices ringing out. It's just like everybody is just so in the moment.
Yeah.
And like, that's what like my heart is for being on stage, is I want to inspire people to step into those moments of quietness with the Lord, but like even like in like crazy music that's happening.
Yeah.
And it just has been so cool to get to just leave everything on stage as I'm singing, and that it's okay, right? Because I'm always nervous that I'm like too much at times.
Oh no.
And people are like, no, you're just so, like, people tell me, and I'm so thankful for this, that they just feel that I'm like very like genuine and in it with them.
You're very authentic.
And I was like, that is so wonderful to hear, because for me, it just is, singing is like the closest to God that I can get.
I love that.
And it just is like, I cannot even, and this song, Sing of This, we just started over these past couple weeks. I literally wake up in the morning, it's stuck in my head. And I'm not even like, I don't even like, I don't even listen to it at home, right? It just keeps ringing in my head. And it just is really beautiful to see how God's using me in this way that I like never knew that I was going to get to experience.
Well, Allison, normally I ask the guests to pray, but you serve everyone, and I want to pray for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
And your husband and your boys, because what you're doing there is just so instrumental. I'm just so grateful for your obedience, for over 20 years to listening to the Lord, to walking into vulnerable places. I don't think anybody realizes when you're confident on stage, when you're capable of doing like a honed skill, like speaking or like leading worship, that we have all the same insecurities they do regarding those things. Yeah. And it's just as scary as it would be for them. It's almost like the John Wayne quote. It's like saddling up anyway. Like you just do it because this is the thing that we're responsible to do. And so thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
It means more to us. We won't be able to know the impact that it made until we're in eternity, but it's a worthwhile wait, So thanks for right now in the sweet spot of being a mom of 2 boys and the good job you and Clint are doing. Keep on keeping on, because we love you, and it's just so special. I'm so grateful for the way that God tangles up stories. And I wonder when people are listening, if you could never dream how tangled up your story is, probably with ours too. So just be willing to serve where God calls you to serve. So I'll pray for you. Father God, we love you so much, and I just thank you so much for Allison. God, I thank you for Community Christian Church and their faithfulness. I thank you for Dave and John Ferguson, who just genuinely loved you, brought great people along, like a Nick Plasman and like Sean Williams and Brad Prunty and so many different individuals, God, that had influence on our lives. I thank you for organizations like CIY. I thank you for people like Nate Ferguson, who found Dave and John and said, God's doing something here, that you were doing something there. And here we sit, God, 20 years later, and we get to be a part of your story and what you're writing on people's hearts. And so I thank you for Allison and her heart to lead worship. I thank you for her deep love of worshiping you and the joy that it brings her, but also the joy that it leads others into. I thank you for Clint and his bright mind that saw something you were doing here. And God, I pray a blessing over their boys that are just full of joy, just a lot of spunk and a lot of life in a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so, God, I pray that your favor would be on them. I pray that you would build your kingdom here, that those boys would one day have a story like Allison, like they just were raised in it. This is what they've seen. This is where they saw your faithfulness. And God, for those that listen that are far off, that they're brand new to this and it feels too late, just bind the enemy from that. It is never too late to step into the image that you called them and created them to be. So God, I just I'm so grateful, abundantly grateful for your faithfulness, and we love you so, so much. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Allison, thanks so much for joining us. You did great. So make sure you share it and send it to all your friends. And if you're looking for a great campus, you want to hear a great worship leader, come check out Allison at the Shorewood campus. Service at 9:30 every Sunday, and at the Trinity Christian School. They would love to have you there. God's doing some great things with the entire team there. So check out Allison, check out Charlie, everybody else they got serving there, and get a great experience of a healthy community that loves the Lord. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us for another great story. Make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss our latest stories. And if you are in the market for a great church home, check us out at thevillagechristianchurch.com. We've got more great stories ahead, and we can't wait for you to hear them all. So until next time, keep living another great story.